Hey UBC, my name is Ray and this is Chelsea, and today we're going to be taking you through a UBC climate walk. Chelsea and I are both Climate Action Mobilizers at the Center for Community Engaged Learning. And today we're going to be exploring C.I.M.A, which is a framework created by the Collaborative for Advanced Landscape Planning. C.I.M.A stands for Cause, Impact, Mitigation, and Adaptation of Climate Change, and we're going to be exploring the definitions of these various elements by looking at different places on campus where we can find examples of C.I.M.A.
Today's climate walk will take place on the UBC Point Grey Vancouver campus, which is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people, who have taken care of these lands since time immemorial. This campus has many features that were inspired by Indigenous roots of community resilience and sustainable design, one of which we will highlight today.
We hope to highlight some of the cool sustainability features on campus, as well as some of the areas in which campus could be improved. And with that, let's get walking. We are at our first stop on campus, the AMS Nest. The Nest is central to the heart of campus, and a lot of students know this building really well. In fact, most students come here to study, eat, hang out, see friends, whatever it is that they have to do. Although this is a building, the Nest was actually designed with the intention that green space would remain central in the heart of campus. So you can actually see lots of green space surrounding this area. And with that, we'll head inside.
Before we explore some of the sustainable features of the Nest, let's review the C.I.M.A framework. The first letter in C.I.M.A is C, which stands for causes. Causes of climate change include any objects or practices that produce carbon emissions. For example, cars, non-renewable energy sources, and deforestation are all causes of climate change.
Next, we have impacts. These are the effects of climate change that can be seen and felt. This includes things like sea level rise, increased intensity and frequency of heat waves, droughts, flooding, wildfires, and more.
This is followed by mitigations, which includes any actions that prevent or reduce the release of carbon emissions. Mitigations can be direct, like choosing to walk or bike, or indirect, like planting more trees or growing your own food.
And finally, we have adaptations. Adaptations are solutions that can help us to cope with the effects of climate change in the present and build resiliency for the future. Planting trees is actually also an example of an adaptation because trees provide shade, which help us to cope and manage in increased hot temperatures. All right, so now that we've covered the C.I.M.A framework, let's talk about our first stop, which is the Nest. The Nest is a LEED certified building, and LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And it's an ecological-based building certification program run by the U.S. Green Building Council. Now, this building's materials were intended to be sourced as sustainably as possible, whether that meant finding local materials or using already dead trees as a wood source. The Nest also features eco-friendly systems such as a rainwater collection system that's used to flush toilets and do other things in the Nest that don't require drinking water. We also have solar paneled heating and cooling systems here that regulate the interior temperature. This is an example of a mitigation because it reduces the amount of energy that would typically be used to regulate temperatures in the building. Unfortunately, however, following hot summers that we've been experiencing here in Vancouver, think of the heat wave that happened about 2 years back, the AMS is working to implement a mechanical cooling system which will increase emissions for the building. The heat waves we've experienced over the last few summers are just one of the examples of the impacts that we can feel of climate change. And then we have one of my personal favorite features of the building, which is the Nest's large windows. You can see throughout the building there are large windows that help bring light into the building in an energy reduced way. So instead of using electric lighting, we have these massive windows that light the building. Another example of a mitigation here at the Nest is the rooftop garden maintained by Roots on the Roof, which is a club here at UBC. That's actually where I am today. And the use of this space to produce food for community members and students both reduces carbon expended during transportation and promotes communal resiliency. So these are just some of the features of sustainability that you will find around the nest.
Our next stop is the UBC Musqueam Welcome Post, which was created by Brent Sparrow Jr. This post was commissioned to celebrate the university's 100th anniversary, and in many ways is an act of recognition that the land UBC lies on is indeed Musqueam land. Now, the water feature surrounding the post was designed to collect stormwater runoff and to recycle the water back into the feature. This water feature hosts various native plants and shrubs that filter the water, promote biodiversity, and support the health of this little ecosystem. This is an example of an adaptation to increased rainwater because the feature collects the rainwater as opposed to letting it flood the nearby pathways.
Okay, so here we are at our third stop, the Biological Sciences building. Right now, I'm sitting just inside of the beautiful courtyard that you can see in the center of the building. Right outside is a concrete path that's punctuated by pockets of greenery. And this area mainly features native plants that are native to the area of Vancouver, which means that they're more resilient to local fluctuations in temperature and weather. And because of this, they require less water and less fertilizer. Another great thing about the punctuated pavement in this courtyard is that it creates a permeable surface for water to run through, which helps prevent flooding during heavy rain seasons. If we look at the building exterior itself, you might notice that it's extremely light colored, and this increases the albedo of the building. Albedo is a measure of how reflective a surface is, and reflective surfaces help to maintain the interior temperature of the building by reflecting sunlight away from the building. This also helps to combat the urban heat island effect, which occurs in concrete and building dense areas with minimal greenery and light surfaces to reflect light. We also can't forget to mention the bike racks that are right outside of this courtyard. Bike racks are an incredible way to encourage low emission and active transportation on campus, especially because fossil-fueled vehicles are a primary cause of climate change. So biking or walking is an excellent solution for students to combat climate change themselves on campus.
So here we are at Main Mall, which is the pedestrian strip that runs straight through the center of campus from north to south. Fun fact, this pathway used to be primarily for cars, but the transition to the walkable pathway that we have now has effectively decarbonized the road, which helps mitigate climate change. One downside in this area, however, is that UBC continues to use fossil fuel powered equipment to clear the leaves and mow the extensive amounts of grass here. That being said, the massive trees do act as excellent carbon sinks and provide a ton of shade. Last but not least, we're visiting the Center for Interactive Research on Sustainability, otherwise known as the CIRS building. Now, we might be a bit biased, but this building is our favorite because it's home to the Center for Community Engaged Learning and the Climate Action Mobilizers. This building was designed to enable innovation and interaction across all groups housed within this building. Now, on the southern side of the building, you'll find photovoltaic panels, which function to shade the building, but also convert sunlight into usable forms of energy. In front of the building, you'll find a blanket of greenery, which function to also help cool the building, but convert sunlight into forms of life. Now, these are only a few features of the CIRS building, so if you're ever curious about what else you can uncover here, feel free to stop by, and any of the staff here are happy to help answer your questions. Thanks for joining us on today's Climate Walk. We hope this walk helped you understand the C.I.M.A framework a little bit more.
Over the past 2 years, the Climate Action Mobilizers have been doing this walk across Vancouver to help Vancouver residents better understand what causes, impacts, mitigations, and adaptations can look like in their area.
If you're interested in learning more, check out our website and social media link below.
Thanks again,
and bye for now.